How's it going, everyone? The PlayStation Store is running a plethora of sales right now. Want to highlight deals under the price of $10. A ton of stuff to go over in this video, so let's not waste any time. Let's try to hit every game relatively quickly. A lot of repeats, you guys know how it is, but let's get right into it with Bioshock The Collection. 80% off for $9.99. You're getting Bioshock 1, 2, and Infinite. 3 excellent single-player first-person shooters. Now, obviously today, or tomorrow actually, we have the release of Atomic Heart, which is getting a lot of comparisons to Bioshock. Look, Atomic Heart's $70. A lot of you guys ain't trying to drop $70. Bioshock is awesome. Bioshock games are tremendous, and, you know, Atomic Heart is quite a bit different than it, so the comparisons, I can understand why people are making it, but nonetheless, if you don't want to drop $70 and you want to get a compelling single-player first-person shooter, and hell, you can get 3 of them, Bioshock The Collection is a great option at $9.99. Infinite is personally my favorite, which I've heard a lot of people think is absolutely egregious. I know some people just think Bioshock 1 is one of the greatest games of all time, and I don't think that's a stretch, but people be slaying Infinite a little bit too much. I liked Infinite, and Bioshock 2 was great as well. No slight to that game either, but yeah, $9.99, great pickup on that. Burnout Paradise Remastered, 70% off for $5.99. EA Play, it is included with that. I really enjoyed Burnout Paradise. I played it all the way back when it initially came out in January of 2008, and probably the element of the game that stood out to me the most was the soundtrack. When you got songs like My Curse by Killswitch Engage, something that is completely up my alley from a soundtrack standpoint. There's a lot of great tracks in the game, and how the jukebox works. You can disable and enable songs so you can get that exact sound experience that you want. Speaking of sound, the sound in this game from the vehicle standpoint is great as well. All the boosters and whatnot. This remastered version isn't anything to write home about, but Burnout Paradise is just such a fun arcade racer that I would strongly recommend it to everybody. It is also a game from 2008, so there's some dated elements to it, don't get it twisted, but for $6, I think it's a great buy. Check it out. Borderlands Game of the Year Edition, 67% off for $9.89. What a great deal for Borderlands Game of the Year Edition. This is Borderlands 1, so a lot of you guys probably have the Handsome Collection, so if you want to go back and play Borderlands 1 as well, this is definitely not a bad option. Like, Borderlands 2 is definitely my favorite, but Borderlands 1 was a lot of fun as well. And for $9.89, I think this is a great buy. You get a bunch of DLC content as well, and this version also refines Borderlands 1 with some, you know, enhancements that were present in Borderlands 2. So $9.89 for this, I think, is a really good pickup. Next up, we have A Way Out. This is 80% off for $6. Also available with EA Play. If you want a quality co-op title, it's a Hazelight game. You know what you're getting yourself into as far as that's concerned. Hazelight has kind of created this archetype for themselves where they create these really, really good co-op titles, and A Way Out was kind of what started it all. Obviously, they did It Takes Two as well, which was really well received, even better than A Way Out. But A Way Out, really good story, compelling cast of characters, and then also some twists and turns that I thought were rather well done. $6 for this is a good pickup. Next up, we have Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch Remastered, $9.99 for this. Ni no Kuni 1 is a great JRPG, and for a lot of people, this was considered to be one of the best, if not, maybe even the best JRPG of that PlayStation 3 era of Japanese RPGs. Remember, like, Final Fantasy was kind of at a little bit of a lull in that era, but nevertheless, Ni no Kuni 1 was really good. You got that Studio Ghibli art style, which everybody really vibes with. Great cast of characters, charming story, and it's a pretty accessible JRPG as well. Perfect for, like, any ages. Like, anybody can really get into it, and for $10, I think it's a really solid pickup. Go check it out. I think it'll be well worth your time and money. And speaking of time, you're gonna get quite a bit of time for that $9.99. Next up, let's give a shout out to The Last of Us Part 2. Why not? $9.59. This isn't part of the double discount sale, so, you know, I have a Plus subscription. Man, this is a game that I can't even, like, get into dialogue about it just because everybody has such differing opinions, and usually people on my camp might be a little bit more vocal. Realistically speaking, like, if you talk to everybody, I feel like more people like this game than dislike it. And I feel like that to be the case to a great extent. It's just that the people that dislike it are very vocal about the fact that they dislike it. I disliked it. Like, I will make no bones about it. I think from a gameplay standpoint and a technical standpoint, it is incredible. However, there are some shortcomings from a narrative standpoint that are, you know, that is a deal breaker for me, because Last of Us 1, one of the main gripping components of it was the narrative. Look, I don't like to get into the long dialogue about it. I just say pick it up for sub $10, because guess what? I'm one person. My opinion on the narrative is not going to apply to everybody else, and I'm not stupid enough to think that it does. and I realized that there are several people that really, really adored this game. So, like, listen to them and buy the game for under $10. Like, why not? I think you'll end up liking it. Last Remnant Remastered, 50% off for $9.99. This is one of those JRPGs that did come out in that PS3 era. Never came out on the PS3. It was actually an Xbox and PC only title. Probably did hinder its sales a little bit. It's a really interesting JRPG in the sense that it has such a unique battle system that is a little bit on the challenging side. Had a lot of technical shortcomings when it came to the Xbox 360 release. That was obviously refined in the PS4 release. It's not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. As far as stories go, this one wasn't one that really blew me away, but I think the battle system was so interesting that, you know, it's one of those forgotten games that I feel like people should just give a chance to. Not at the full $20, but at $9.99, I think it's a pretty good pickup. Next up, we got Wolfenstein II The New Colossus. This is down to $7.99, a game that I always recommend whenever it sees a sizable discount. Really enjoyable single-player first-person shooter. It is Wolfenstein, so it does get a little bit wacky, so bear that in mind, but gameplay is really strong, visuals are good, and the story is interesting for the most part. $7.99, I think, is a really good buy for it. Want to give a shout out to Bayonetta 1, $9.99. Unfortunately, Bayonetta 2 and Bayonetta 3 probably will never come to PlayStation, which is a bummer, but Bayonetta 1 is still a lot of fun. This is really Platinum Games at their peak. Like Bayonetta, Vanquish, Metal Gear Rising, in my opinion, that's like Platinum Games' trio of like perfection. I mean, Nier Automata was great as well, but nonetheless, in that early 2000s era, these are some excellent action games, and Bayonetta is no different, just an over-the-top, flashy action title that is super stylish and still enjoyable in, you know, early 2020s here, a decade after its initial release. And $9.99 is a good price. It's a shorter game, of course, but, you know, you'll have a great time with it for sure. Next up, Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition, 84% off for $7.99. Tales of Vesperia is another one of those JRPGs that I always go to bat for. You know, Tales is a franchise that I just adore. I mean, most of the Tales of games, I would say damn near all the Tales of games, I would say, are at least good. Even ones that people don't like Zestria, I still thought that was a fine JRPG. Vesperia, I definitely rank among the higher tiers. Now, as far as the gameplay goes, it's a 2008 JRPG, and I think Arise really refined the gameplay of Tales of to a point where it's accessible to a 2020 audience. The gameplay is a bit dated, but the cast of characters in Vesperia, I just think is so good. Yuri is one of the most likable main characters in a JRPG, and the rest of the cast is really good as well. Their interactions are great. I feel like that's what Tales of does a great job of getting you attached to these characters that are on this journey, and their interactions with one another, I just think is great. And I think Yuri and Estelle as like the two main characters, how they play off one another, I think it's just really well done, and that can be said for a lot of the character interactions in this game. But as far as the story goes, it's pretty good, but I think it's just like the characters that really carry my enjoyment of Vesperia anyway. $7.99 I think is a great price for it. Next up, want to give a shout out to DMC Devil May Cry. This is, of course, the Devil May Cry game that isn't a Devil May Cry game, however you want to describe it. It's done by Ninja Theory, who are known for Hellblade at this point, and a couple other titles for sure, but this isn't attached to the main Devil May Cry games that you guys may be aware of, and this game got quite a bit of backlash when it initially came out because of that fact. However, if you actually go into it and just expecting like a good action game, oh, it's a great action game, and for $9.99 I think this is a great buy. This version has a bunch of DLC as well. I believe there is even a DLC that lets you have a skin to make you look like regular Dante, so you know, it's a fun action game. For $9.99 I think it's a good buy, and I would say give it a look. You'll probably end up enjoying it. Next up, we have XCOM 2 The Collection. This is $9.99. XCOM 2 Collection is what you want to buy. You get XCOM 2 the base game, you get War of the Chosen, and a bunch of other DLC packs. It's a great tactics-based title. It does have some performance shortcomings, which is such a bummer. I wish it would get like a full-on PS5 upgrade. I doubt that'll ever happen, but yeah, even if you're not that into tactics games, give XCOM a shot. XCOM Enemy Unknown was one of those games that I played that did get me more into tactics titles. Not necessarily, oh, I'm all about tactics-based games, but XCOM Enemy Unknown was one that I really enjoyed, and XCOM 2 built upon that. And yeah, for $9.99, you're just getting an absurd amount of content for your dollar as well, so definitely go check that out. Next up, we have Dragon Age Inquisition Deluxe Edition, $6.99. An easy RPG to recommend, in my opinion. It was one of the first truly great games on the PS4. It was available on the PS3 as well. Visuals still hold up pretty strongly. I thought the gameplay was good, story is good. Obviously, a lot of options and a lot of replayability inherently is going to be attached to that as well. $7, not a bad price on that. Next up, we have Okami HD, which is 50% off for $9.99. Okami is one of those classics on the PlayStation 2 that if you look up, you know, the list of the top 10 PS2 games of all time. Okami, more often than not, is gonna be a part of it. Hell, a lot of people would rank it among the top 3. I think some people would even have it as their number 1. I don't know if I would go that far, but Okami was a fantastic game. You definitely get some Legend of Zelda vibes, and the fact is, this game had such a great art style that even... How long has it been? 18 years. I think it's literally been 18 years since Okami initially dropped. It still holds up pretty nicely from a visual standpoint. That the HD remaster is nice, but the visual style is what carries it here more than anything. WipEout Omega Collection, that is on sale. It is 60% off for $7.99. WipEout Omega Collection is awesome. WipEout is a franchise that unfortunately it doesn't seem like Sony's going to do much more with, but WipEout the Omega Collection is great, and it is a very, very enjoyable arcade racer, futuristic arcade racer. Great soundtrack, and one of the underrated VR components. Unfortunately, VR 2 doesn't have backwards compatibility, but man, WipEout Omega Collection is one that I hope somehow they get it on VR 2 as well, because it's great, and yeah, a franchise that I feel like Sony should do more with. Lastly, I do want to highlight 2 games that are available on Plus Extra. Yakuza 0, $5.99, always a good buy for Yakuza 0. Not going to delve too much into that. You guys know my thoughts on Yakuza. Infamous Second Son, 50% off for $9.99. Awesome game. Even though I don't think it's as good as Infamous 1, honestly, I'll go back and forth with Infamous 2 and Second Son. I might like Second Son better. I haven't played Infamous 2 in so long, so my memory of it is a little bit foggy, but I really enjoyed Second Son. Runs great on PS5. Delson's still a good main character. I just am like, I loved Cole as a main character, but Delson's a good main character, and you still have a lot of flashy powers and whatnot. I feel like this game just needed a little bit more time to cook in the oven as far as development goes, but obviously this was one of the early titles that was to sell people on the PS4, and you know, for me, I was really hoping that this would have been a launch game. It wasn't. It came out in early 2014, like 6 months after the PS4, but man, what a great game this was when it initially dropped, and still holds up pretty nicely, and visually still very much at a high level. So that is going to do it for me. Again, a ton of deals we went over in this video. As always, links to everything will be in the description box below. Highlighted stuff under $10 in this one, but that'll do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.